Now, I'd like to move to the next segment where we're going to take a trip to the Northern Territory. I'd like to welcome Nicholas Miliari Fitzpatrick, who's a Yanyuwa man from Borroloola, and I knew I was going to get tongue-tied on that, and also Samantha Lilly from the Protect Country Alliance Northern Territory. What we were really interested to do is to get a bit of a sense of what's going on, get Nicholas's perspective on what it's like to actually be from a community where gas is having a very big impact. We thought it'd be good to actually just start off by having a quick look at a map of the Northern Territory. So perhaps that could be shared, and then we're hoping that Nicholas will be able to unmute himself and tell us what it is that we're looking at.
This is a map of a lot of the companies' exploration permits. They got, I think it was over 50% of the NT was covered by gas and oil exploration. And yeah, well, I'm Nicholas from Borroloola, Northern Territory. I've been working with SEED, Indigenous Youth Climate Network, and we've been trying to stop this gas industry for years now. And yeah, we've been working with a lot of communities across the Barkly, organizing meetings and talking and trying to get the real story out there, because a lot of these companies, when they come into these remote areas, they don't talk about the risks and impacts of this industry. You know, a lot of my people up here, we're still in transition to changing into English language and understanding all these difficult words. And yeah, we need help, like from proper scientists, to explain to us what the risks are and what's really could happen in the country with this industry, and even explaining the Paris Agreement properly to all the community members out in the remote areas, because we're a lot behind on that stuff, but we do feel a lot of the impacts, like the water coming up higher and it's getting hotter. Plants are dying more now because there's less rain. There's more rapid cyclones, more strange storms. The wet seasons don't wet the entire place. It just rains in patches. Yeah, there's a lot of things we're worried about out here. And I'm just a young, passionate bloke that grew up on country, and I hung around a lot of my grandparents, and they noticed change happening back in their time. And yeah, I picked up a lot of it from them and started seeing all this change happening, like the patterns of plants flowering, starting to flower at different times, not supposed to be flowering, and yeah, just behaviors of animals, and even recognizing the wet season patterns ourselves are getting really broken. And it used to be like a perfect pattern before, but you can't really predict anything anymore. It's all over the place.
So
and yeah, we've been traveling around with the seed. Sorry.
So we're so grateful that you're able to join us, because I know you are really busy, and just the sort of work that you're doing with SEED, you're covering a lot of ground, I'm sure, trying to get around and speak to people in the community about what's going on. Can you tell us about how you actually became a leader in the campaign against fracking, and what's actually going on in your country around gas?
I guess it comes from my grandparents. They were activists, and they were the leaders, like all my grandparents, that generation in Borroloola area. They were the leaders of land rights, and we was the first land rights claim and the longest land rights claim in the history of Australia. So the protesting for the right things, it goes back a fair bit of time in the blood. But yeah, I actually went and worked in the gas industry that was happening in Borroloola about 8 years ago, and I knew nothing about this industry. They don't teach us anything about this industry, and I was really concerned what they're doing in on country. And yeah, I went and worked with them for about 4 or 5 months and worked closely with these two geologists that explained the impacts of conventional drilling and everything. But then I started asking them questions about fracking, and they basically taught me within 2 months everything I needed to know about this fracking method of extracting gas and oil. And done my research, a lot of research, reading into it and seeing impacts that happened in the USA, and later on meeting Native Americans that went through a pretty bad time with the fracking industry. They wrecked a lot of country, and they're basically trying to do the same strategy to us over here. And yeah, it just made me worry really sick. These two geologists, they told me that if any company was going to go and frack in that country, that I had to do everything I could to stop them. And, these more worked in the conventional gas drilling industry, but they were dead set against fracking because it's a very risky method of extracting gas and oil and down deep in the shale, and they've messed it up in a lot of places around the world. So a seed mob actually came to Borroloola and had a meeting there, and I got to meet the mob, and yeah, it was basically just meant to be because I found people who are like-minded like me and worried about the same stuff and looking at the bigger picture and thinking for the future. And yeah, I've just been working with them ever since, even Lock the Gate as well, doing stuff with them here and there. But it's all happening for a reason, all this gathering and fighting back, and even us mob all working together, blackfellas and whitefellas all working together to try and make this emission target possible, go clean energy. And it's really good. We really do need to stand together. Everybody can, as SEED, we do work with AYCC, the Australian Youth Climate Coalition, and we work closely with a lot of non-Indigenous mob in Australia, and we do help each other a lot. Very good work. And yeah, I just ended up speaking up, putting my voice out there, and trained from my grandfathers. And yeah, it's like a job that I don't want to do. It's a job that I have to do because this industry is being so forcing on my people and not consulting with people properly, and just pushing their way around too much, and the government full supporting them. And we had a vote here in the NT, and the majority of us was against the fracking industry, but they just keep going over us. But yeah, we need support up here. We need, to make a stand, because this big industry happening in the NT, it's going to affect everybody on the planet. Like this is going backwards, very fast backwards from the Paris Agreement. And we all need to stand together and stop this, because it is going to affect a lot more people than just us in the NT, but we're going to be affected first. We're like the last frontier, the last stronghold for Indigenous people of Australia, the entire top end of Australia. We need to keep that. We're the oldest living culture on the planet. They talk about making money and building back the economy. If the government helped us with programs to bring tourists into our communities and cultural educate people, tourists, even Australian tourists, overseas tourists, everybody that wants to learn the oldest living culture on earth, there's a big industry there for tourism. It's the second biggest money that comes into Australia. And I'm pretty sure we can make it the first biggest income. We want to keep our culture, keep our languages, and grow back strong. We already have so many problems in the NT, so many youth in jail, so much other adults, Indigenous in jail. We're heading down a wrong track, and, coming together and standing up for something we all believe in, and it is the right thing to do. That's the way forward. We really need to first save the land, save the climate, and then we can start figuring out how we're going to fix everything later and build up the economy, with future jobs that go into the future for a long way. Like Indigenous mob are going to want to learn their culture, learn their language to teach tourists. And, you know, if government is influencing us to learn our languages and teach this stuff again, like it's basically illegal for in the curriculum to speak our languages and be taught our languages within school. Like it's still pushing us down a bit too much. And yeah, I'm really strong, and I stand against all of this industry that threatens our country. There's not only fracking, there's big mines like the MacArthur River mines. We got a big problem there with acid leaching rock coming into our river. And like out in the bush, these industries can get away with so much because they're out in the bush, nobody watching them. And yeah, we really need to plan for mapping out all the water tables and knowing what levels of what is in water all across our country here. So when anything messes up, we know instantly that industry is the one that caused it. Yeah, and like a big network like we have here.
So Nicholas, we've just
it's the kind of stuff we need to work all together.
Nicholas, you probably have a view about that as well. Like, what's from your perspective around fracking and on country? What's the impact?
It has a pretty great impact on our people out here, because an industry like fracking, it threatens our water table, and our water table is very connected to each other out here. We're pretty much on one water table, and there's a bit of science been done by the CSIRO about finding some little prawns in the basin here, and then about 400 k's from here, they found the same prawns, and they're the same DNA. So it just proves that water from here in the Beetaloo Basin is running towards Mataranka and down towards the sea that way. But a lot of our songlines are associated with a lot of these water movements as well. Like an industry like fracking, it could poison our water table. It could bust a salt water table deep down. The salt water got really high pressure. It could leak into the fresh water and just kill all our water like that. It'll end up killing all the trees, kill everything, because everything needs that fresh water. It all feeds off it. You know, this country in the Northern Territory here, unfortunately for us, really, there's so much minerals. We got gold, biggest deposits of gold, uranium, iron ore, copper, lead and zinc, like oil, gas, you name it. Like, if they wreck all this country up here, it's wrecked to my people forever, but it's not wrecked to the government, because they can come in and just dig up and take all these other minerals and keep making money for years and years to come. And just the last front of Australia will just be a big mining pit. Like, I see this industry affecting our water table. It's not when, it's not, it's inevitable to happen. This thing is going to leak. Water tables are going to get contaminated, because the erosions of all the chemicals down already in the ground, like the high salt and other stuff, is just going to eat through the concrete, eat through the steel, and there's going to be leaks. It's bound to happen. And, moving us, it's going to hurt all of us, because we are part of that country. Drilling through the country, drilling through the people, we've won with that country. And yeah, we had enough of, mass murder of country. And, we want to see the pristine stuff where the song lines pass through, where there's nothing cutting the song lines. It's still good. We want to keep it that way, we want to keep our culture, because the main thing why a lot of my fellow Indigenous people across the world, we're getting pushed down. We're making us feel like our language and stuff is just nonsense, and you just forget about it. Mining is the way to go. Like, it hurts us. We end up in prisons. We end up doing all this stuff. It's no good, and it's happening still today in 2021. the anti-government want to lock up 10-year-olds and send them to prison, and that's too young. We need to fix all these problems, and it starts with giving us the full recognition of our country, consulting with us properly, because we are the true traditional owners, and making proper agreements. They keep pushing us with these industries like mining. We need alternatives. We need the government to offer us stuff in cultural education to build our community up, and even agriculture, and grow food, have cattle, become a strong unit in the bush, like turn our generators off, have nothing but solar power. But all they want to do is the opposite. They want to keep wrecking all our country, taking all this gas and oil from us. A lot of my people struggling already. When people do end up making agreements, it's because we're being kept in poverty, and they just take advantage of that, take advantage of our lack of education as well. There's young fellas like myself that's, coming up with education. You go back 30 years ago, the education to what we have these days is completely different. And yeah, we're starting to catch up with the advanced English, and, using interpreters, even if it's broken English to advanced English to simple English, like it, there needs to be people explaining properly in these decisions out here. And so people understand the huge risk, that the decision that they're making could affect so much more people. And the NLC, the Northern Land Council, doesn't do their job properly. They just paid out by the miners pretty much, and they set up my people with, they just talk about royalties, come to the meeting. And that's all that's in their head is royalties, and they pretty much sign whatever the white fellas are talking about. Like it's just too complicated for them to understand. All they're understanding is the royalty part, and that's how a lot of these conventional gas agreements in the Northern Territory were first made. They were tricking people into signing all these agreements, not doing their job properly, and there's a lot of corruption in that area there. But I'm pretty sure if you explain it to every Indigenous person properly what the decision they're going to make when they sign an agreement with a mining company, they're going to say no every time. Like it's just not what we want. It's not, even in the rest of the world, it's not what the world wants. The world wants to go into a clean future. Everything is against this industry. They end up getting handouts from the government just to keep it going. Like, I don't think it'll be very hard to stop them while the fire is just starting to be lit. We don't want it to end up with thousands of wells across the NT. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of people affected in the spirit, in their body. We're all going to be hurting once we start seeing all them impacts around our country here in the Territory. It's going to turn this place upside down. Violent pain, suffering. We already had enough of that stuff.